Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and I'm back with another review, this time of The Minions of Time, book number 4 in the Wormling series by Jerry B. Jenkins and Chris Fabry. Now, okay, we gotta talk about this book because I am gonna be the first to admit, I read books 1 and 2 a very long time ago, like back when the books came out in 2007, 2008. So it has been a while since I picked up these books. I'd never read 3, 4, or 5, the last 3 books in the series. Recently, I read book number 3, The Changeling, and I enjoyed it. It was good. It kept me moving. I couldn't stop reading it. I wanted to find out what happens, but I was so confused. I was very confused while reading it, and there was a lot of times I had to say, well, I don't really remember that. I don't know what's going on. You're not giving me quite enough contextual clues to help me figure this out. So I kind of had just plowed through. And I thought, well, maybe book 4, it will continue on things in book 3. But book 4, while this book is good, I'm not going to say it's bad. I was also, again, very confused at some points. There are moments where this book asks you to remember characters from book number 1. And I guess if you're reading them plowing through 1 to 5, you will remember all those things. But if you have any sort of time in between book 1 and book 4, you might forget some stuff. This book does not remind you of what's come before very well. I will say there's one part later on in the book where it switches to another character's point of view that we have not seen in a long time. And fortunately, that character walks through some places that they had been before in book 1 and tells you a lot about what had happened there. Not like an overwhelming amount, like pages on pages, but like a paragraph here about this was where this happened. And I thought, oh, okay, I remember that. Okay, I remember that. I remember that. And that was really helpful in understanding what was happening in this book. There's also, we got to talk about this book because this series, in the vein of Chronicles of Narnia, in Pilgrim's Progress, this series is an allegory of the Christian life. And so this is a Christian series. And so in the books, there is this Book of the King, which is supposed to represent the Bible. And there is also the King, who is supposed to represent God. And there is the King's son, who has been talked about in the past 3 books. And this character, Owen Reader, who is called the Wormling, or the one who is supposed to go find the book and find the son, he has been on this search for the son in the past 3 books. And now, at the end of book 3, this is a spoiler for books 1 to 3. If you have not read those, go back and read those. This is a non-spoiler review for the Minions of Time, but not for the rest of the series. So in the end of book number 3, you find out that Owen is the son of the king. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting development. So you're saying that Owen is like Jesus. And then I started thinking about this. I started wondering, how has he treated people? So Jesus in the Bible, if you are not a Christian or you don't know much about Jesus, Jesus is perfect. He's never done anything wrong. He doesn't treat anybody wrong. He loves everyone. He cares about everybody. I started wondering, has Owen ever treated anybody in a wrong way if he's supposed to be Jesus? And I kind of had some question marks on it a little bit. I thought, wait a minute. He dealt with some bullies in book 1, and there was some other things going on in some other parts of these books where I have questioned what he's done. And in this book, I felt like Owen had this sort of tonal shift in his character. His character changed completely. You find out, like I said, at the very end of book number 3 that he is the son of the king who's been missing. And so he's been searching for himself, which is a self-discovery kind of story, that sort of thing. But now in book 4, he has really shifted in tone. The way he talks, the way he acts, I felt like changed dramatically in this book in a way that I'm not sure if it was earned. Suddenly he's become a leader, he's ready to go, he has all the confidence in the world, whereas in the other books he was very timid, very not willing to go for it, and wondering how am I gonna work through all these different things going on in my life. I'm wondering who my father is, I'm wondering what's happening here. And so now he's all of a sudden a leader doing things, and I just had some question marks on whether that was earned. I felt like it wasn't. And I felt like some of the connecting pieces here were missing in this story. In the Minions of Time, Owen knows that he needs to battle the dragon, who is trying to destroy everything, as, you know, he's supposed to represent Satan, as Satan does. So Owen is in this battle with the dragon, and they are trying to outmaneuver each other throughout this book. And there are so many different things at play here that it was a little hard to follow if you do not just read it straight through. I read this book really quickly, which I was glad I did, because I was able to keep track of what was happening. I feel like if you have any time in between reading this, like setting it down for even a week or so, you're going to get lost, because there's just so much going on. A lot of the characters are flying quick and fast. Like I said, some characters come back in this book that I know are from the previous books, but I did not remember them at all. And I thought, I don't remember this, and I wish you gave me a couple more textual clues to help me piece that together. But again, the action, the plot, it moves along, and I did enjoy reading it. And I did want to know, like, what's going on. Especially, I'm not going to say anything about the Minions of Time. That was a terrifying development, I will say, in the book. When you find out what the Minions of Time are, that was absolutely horrifying. And I thought, oh, that's a great antagonist. So there's a lot going on there, a lot of good pieces. But again, I felt like this book was a little sloppy in the way it was written. There's a lot of pieces where I thought, especially, was a chapter missing here? Because I don't know how we just got to here. I felt like you cut a paragraph there because all of a sudden we were over here, and now you're all of a sudden here in the next paragraph. And I don't know how we got there. I don't know if there was a journey there. And I kind of think part of this is Jerry B. Jenkins and Chris Fabry are writing a fantasy series in this. And in fantasy series, you often do slow down quite a bit to allow characters the time to travel, to make it to these different places. And in this book, they are zipping back and forth across this world so quickly that it was hard to keep track of sometimes. There is a lot of great world building though, and I really enjoyed like the settings that are described. So I felt like I'm really torn on this book, whether I really liked it or not, because I definitely liked the storyline. I enjoyed reading it, but I felt like my brain had to do a lot of connecting the pieces in order to keep it moving. This book also is gorier than some of the other books I have read that are supposed to be scary books. I will just say, there are some moments in this I thought, oh, that is disgusting. So this book definitely has some gory moments, which were a little bit surprising to me. But overall, I thought it was good. The villains, once again, like I said in The Changeling, the villains are a little goofy, but they are menacing, and they pull through on their threats. They will come after the characters, and you do not know if a character is going to survive or not in this book. And there's a lot of things at stake by the end. There's a lot of things in play, and I really do want to read book 5 to find out what happens next, because I do think that the storyline needs to be wrapped up in my head. I want to know how this all comes together, especially because of that allegory piece. I want to know how they're going to piece this together, because this book kind of starts taking things to an end times sort of position, which I thought was very fascinating for a fantasy series to kind of go to an end times revelation sort of place. So I'm telling you, this book was a trip. It was a trip. So if you've ever read any of these fantasy books in the series The Wormling, let me know down below. What did you think of this series? Did you enjoy it? Is it something you skipped and have never come to? Or is it one you're intrigued by? I will say they are quick reads, even though they look long. The paragraphs come very quick and the chapters come really short, which is a Jerry B. Jenkins staple. He likes to write very short chapters. So let me know what you think about this book, if you've ever read it or if you're interested in it. And keep reading. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.